I'm great to see.
Okay, good. Great, great. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Stitch Sessions. I am super delighted today to have a wonderful guest with me, Miss Frances, the multi-talented, multi-skilled fiber artist, we'll call you. Frances also does knitting as well as sewing, and she's a fantastic dancer. So I'm really excited to have you guys join us today. Stick around, grab your current work in progress, a great cup of coffee, we've got some tea going, and hang out with us for a while. So stay tuned. That it devastated all the first class. We have some very in-depth conversations here on the Stitch Sessions.
We're very good.
But that's looking good already. You got yourself going.
Not very fast.
So what do you have in mind there?
Oh, absolutely nothing.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to...
Maybe a little scarf, a little something.
How many stitches would you...
For a scarf, I would usually do at least, on average, most people do about 24 stitches across.
Okay.
Depending on how thick you want the scarf to be. So if you want it really, thick and chunky, maybe do 30.
Okay.
So totally up to you. So yeah, I forgot that you also crocheted as well.
Well, barely. I can make a chain stitch.
All right, we're on the go here. So I know Frances through dancing, and you've been dancing actually for quite a while now.
I would say 7 years.
Oh, is that all? I mean, I feel like you've been dancing for a long time. I mean, that's a long time.
7 or 8 years.
Yeah. And you initially started dancing because of... You wanted to swing dance. I remember you told me that.
I wanted to swing dance. I saw it on Dancing with the Stars, and I was hooked.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about ballroom dancing, and it's my favorite thing in the whole world.
Really?
Yes. My very favorite.
So what, even above knitting and sewing?
Yes.
Wow.
It is.
Okay, that's up there. That's up there.
It's my favorite
So what is it about dance that makes it your favorite thing in the whole world?
When you're dancing well and doing it right, makes you feel like almost powerful.
Really?
Yes.
Powerful is...
I just love it.
Oh.
That I'm...
Now, does it help that you have a fantastic partner?
Yes. And
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
I've really never danced with anybody but him.
Oh, okay.
So,
her partner is her dance teacher, who she also does competitions with and shows and all kinds of stuff.
and he's really hunky.
Hunky mentor. Hey, mentor.
Hey, mentor. Shout out.
I was going to say, oh, those girls. So what keeps you going, though? Because sometimes I know I hear you on lessons because mentor teachers at our studio, and Frances also works at front of house for us as well. So we've got this whole thing going. And so sometimes I hear you guys on a lesson, and man, he can, be hard on you sometimes.
And
so what keeps you going sometimes? You're frustrated, and even with like things like crocheting and stuff, like sometimes I'm so frustrated, but yet I'll keep going. So
I do get very frustrated. It's been good lately, but I do get very frustrated. I get angry at my teacher. I get fed up with my teacher. He gets fed up with me.
Totally normal, by the way, people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just...
But you guys have a good thing going. Like, you do some great stuff together.
We do, but sometimes it takes a while to get there.
Yeah.
Sometimes he has to get me to be real with my expectations, and sometimes I have to push him.
Real with your expectations.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
this, because in the FAQs and the dancing, I have a dancing segment, too, that I call FAQ, Frequently Asked Questions, and that's one of the topics I want to cover is... Be real with your expectations. So how do you be real with your expectations?
Oh, when you see yourself in the mirror, sometimes it makes you get real.
Yeah.
Pretty quick. But
for some people, not all.
Not all. Or sometimes it'll make you push yourself a little bit harder. But sometimes I have to talk him into letting me push it, like...
Oh, wow.
Yes,
well, good for you, though, for saying, no, I want to push to the next level. And just being real, like you understand that you're not a pro on Dancing with the Stars, but there's never been anything wrong with pushing towards something further. I mean, what's the point if you're not
going to feel really good if you can make it too.
For sure. And I think that's, whether it's dancing or anything in life, I mean, what's the point if you're not going to like give yourself a little something to work towards, or a goal to reach?
Meet a goal.
Yeah, I know. I'm the same way with these kind of projects. It's like, you know, sometimes I try to think so much about, okay, what's the most creative, different thing I can think of, and sometimes it's like I just come back to basics. Like sometimes people just like to see some really simple, good, solid basics, but done in creative ways.
It's in the execution.
Yes, it's in the execution. It's in the execution. So, yeah, and the idea of just being resilient and sticking it out. And you, Franny, are actually one of the most resilient people I know.
Oh, thank you.
And that's one of the main things I actually wanted to talk to you about, because some of the stuff that you've gone through, you've had a lot of change in your life, and watching parents age and that kind of stuff, and you just always seem to be able to find the funny in the situation. Like a lot of times we were talking about, you know, when your dad, I think you were starting to tell me about your dad.
My father-in-law.
Oh, your father-in-law.
At the time, well, I guess sometimes things aren't, you don't realize they're funny till after the fact, and you can laugh at them. But in this instance, my father-in-law was 94 years old, had a great life, looked after himself, had a great mind. Near the end of his life, he had difficulty swallowing it. Really affected his quality of life. He was in palliative care. He just wanted to die. He would wake up and say, "Oh my God, I'm still here."
Well, at 94, yes. I mean...
And he did manage to get up out of bed one day, and I don't know how or why this happened. He ended up dancing around the floor
What?
on his spindly little legs with one of his sons.
Oh, that is so sweet.
We would put... one of his favorite things was rum. He loved rum. He wasn't a big drinker, but he loved rum. He loved a little on his dessert, a little on his pancakes. And so they put some rum in his Ensure. And
that would make a great commercial for Ensure.
The nuns weren't too happy about that, but we did.
The nuns?
Yes.
What do you mean?
He was in. It was out west in BC, and the palliative care was the nursing staff was. There were a lot of sisters.
Oh wow!
Running it.
I'm sure they must have loved that.
They were pretty sweet, and he had the rum. He closed his eyes. He'd wake up and say, "I'm still here."
Oh
he
man!
Just wanted to
Poor
die.
thing.
He just wanted to die.
Well, his health must have been failing at that point.
Oh yes,
because I mean, if he was feeling great,
he really couldn't eat anything solid. So he was.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah, because I mean, if he was feeling good, he wouldn't be saying like, "Man, take me already."
No.
But I know. And then were you the caregiver for both your mother and your father when
Yes.
Wow. I mean,
my mom's case wasn't so happy. My mom had Alzheimer's that took her in about, I would say, maybe over 10 years. The last 5 were very, very bad.
Wow.
And it was honestly a blessing when she died, because she didn't know anyone. She was afraid all the time.
It's a terrible way to live. Yeah. But you used to tell me some, as sad as it was to see your parent deteriorate like that, but you told me some funny stories. And you know, I'm sure some people have, you know, experienced similar things. So, you know.
Well, Mom was funny. I remember she came to stay with me for a few days. My dad needed a bit of a break, and she had the work ethic, such an excellent work ethic. And I come downstairs, and she's standing at the kitchen sink, and she has folded some laundry, and she's taken some toddler socks, and she has one on one foot just over her toes because it wouldn't go up all the way, and her other little bare foot. And she's scrubbing pots and pans because that was her work ethic. She was always cleaning or wiping down the fridge. That was a big one for her.
Okay.
And there is water pouring over the sink onto the floor. and she's totally unaware of it. Something must have been plugging the sink.
But
And
not even aware that her feet were getting wet.
not aware that her feet were wet or
that's
anything.
incredible.
And I just had to laugh. I thought it was
You're like,
hysterical.
part of you was like, oh
I
man,
thought,
but then the other part of me was like,
go get the
hello.
mop. Yes, but it was so sweet. It was so her, and it was funny. I'll never forget that.
Yeah. And it is kind of like they do become very childlike.
Extremely,
don't they? Yeah.
very, very.
Yeah.
No, she was.
I mean,
funny.
it can be heartwarming and sweet and cute and heartbreaking at the same time, right?
It's heartbreaking. When she did have to go into a home, that was a shock. We didn't want to put her in a home, but
yeah.
everybody worked, and she really needed 24-hour.
See, this is the thing.
care.
Yeah, if you just don't have the time availability, what are you going to do? I know.
But she ended up. We finally. The first time we toured the place, I was like, "There's no way. There's no
Really?
way. I can't. We can't do this."
You just didn't like the look of it, or
It was the sounds more than anything. We went in at mealtime, and I thought, oh my goodness, I would lose my mind here. People are eating, making noises, maybe arguing, the rocking, some crying.
Oh,
and
it's sad. It's very sad.
But you know what? You get used to it. You get it's people with all their little ticks and actually mealtime became one of my favorite times up there.
Oh, really?
You go up and you don't only feed your own parent. You
sometimes you're helping someone else.
When my dad eventually joined my mother there because he practically lived there, and when his deteriorated, not to the extent of Mom's, but he would go for walks in the middle of the night, and neighbors would call. He couldn't be left alone either. But I would sit at his table. He had there were 4 gentlemen at the table. This was after my mother had passed, and
so was he still mentally all there, or was he already kind of?
This is probably 2 years after Mom had passed, so he was starting to deteriorate mentally, but not the same way as Mom. It was more the regular dementia, not Alzheimer's is. I guess there's all sorts, but very different from my mother's. And so he would sit with 4 men, and they don't talk. Speech pretty much goes away. Oh. Some of them can feed themselves. Some of them have difficulty with it. But there was a very, very tall man who sat at his table who wore dentures.
Oh. I have a funny feeling I know where this story is going.
It was supper time, so I'm not sure why he took his dentures out, but...
This was your dad took it out?
No, the gentleman did. I can't remember his name. But he took his dentures out and he put them on Dad's plate.
For safekeeping, huh?
For safekeeping. And I just picked them up and said, oh, I think these are yours.
Did your dad not notice?
No, my dad didn't.
Oh, that's
he was not aware at all at that point.
Aww.
But he was a sweet man. And after I gave him his dentures, the fridge was right behind him, and he opened it, and he could still walk. My dad was in a wheelchair, but he could still walk. He got up and he took this giant jar of I guess, honey from his own. It was just in a big jar, so maybe he had it. He didn't really talk, so I couldn't get much info. He gave me tea. He gave me his tea, and he put honey in it for me. So I thought, he was absolutely sweet.
That's so sweet.
He was absolutely sweet. And most people were extremely sweet.
Aww. Well, what would you say is the funniest memory you have of your dad in that time period? Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, yes, I do. He had an obsession with talcum powder.
Oh, boy.
And keeping clean and dry. So this is when he was still mobile. He would go into his little bathroom and, shower and wash and everything, and then he'd take the talcum powder out, and he plugged a drain in his room in the bathroom a few times, like overflowed, and they had to have a talk with us.
With
and say,
talcum powder?
You cannot bring he plugged the...
Well, what was he doing? I thought he was using it on himself.
He is, but, a little bit of lack of coordination and eyesight fading. And this happened, it became plugged over a period of time. I think it was an accumulation in the drain, and that flooded. But no, he was not so many funny things with Dad. He was always trying so hard. But there was a sweet lady there. I'll see if I can remember her name. I think it was Pamela. And she was very mobile, spry as a goat. She always had the immaculate white tennis shoes on. And she had a British accent.
Ew.
And she would come down and she'd sit for dinner. And she was very, very thin. And I know they wanted her to eat. And she would just say, and you could hear her in the middle of the dining room, I want to go back to bed. I want to go back to bed.
I'm sure at some point somebody said, well, somebody take this woman back to bed.
And they'd say, no, Pamela, you have to eat. You have to eat first. You have to eat. I want to go back to bed. So.
Imagine listening to that all day long, though. Oh,
I would take her arm. I really, really liked her. She had the sweetest face. And we would walk back to her room, and you put her in bed, and pull the cover up and say, okay, Pamela, have a nice rest. I'd go back. I'd sit down next to Dad. She's back 5 minutes later, sitting at her table.
Kidding me?
Going, I want to go back to bed. Lots of little things like that happen.
Oh, so she didn't even realize that she's getting up and she's moving and
no.
So between your parents, your mother was the one that was, I guess, her personality was generally what? Much more animated to begin with?
Yes.
Okay.
By the time my mother went in a home, she wasn't Anne anymore. She was gone. Oh. She had been home for a very, very long time. And she didn't sleep. She did
I've heard that
the little Alzheimer's shuffle around all the time.
Yeah.
She would reach into a hot oven, totally. We always got to her, but
my goodness.
Yes, she was a danger to herself. And occasionally she would recognize us, but she was already quite. It was surprising because we'd go up and basically the activity with Mum was walking. We would walk all the halls, and that's not unusual. There were other people past the same people all the time. But she would read things. She could read fire extinguisher. She could read laundry room. She could.
Do they lose their ability to actually read?
I have no idea. I mean, we never had conversations, but she could read those things. And
because she stopped talking.
She had a very strong Catholic faith, and she could recite the Lord's Prayer and the Hail Mary.
Whoa.
Word for word. Not right till the end.
Yeah,
she was out of it even more. But
the thing is, as you get, when you're younger, you just think, you think you're going to live forever and you think your parents are going to live forever. But as I'm getting older and I see, some of my friends dealing with their parents, and I know that, that day's coming at some point. I mean, thankfully my parents are still fairly healthy. But I can't imagine.
Mom's was a slow progression, but the last 5 years were very quick. Deterioration.
But we were just talking about a mutual friend of ours whose mom is 94, and they're just at the point where they're frustrated because she doesn't want to get out of bed and stuff like that. But the thing is, she's also 94. She's kind of giving up, right? Like it's but as a caregiver, I can only imagine the strain on you. It's exhausting. It's frustrating.
It's very tiring.
And I'm sure you also went through like you were frustrated, but then you feel guilty for feeling frustrated because they can't help it. It's like it's such this huge gamut of emotion. It's like it's an emotional, messed up roller coaster ride. And
you have to remember that their brain is broken, and a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, even sometimes you see the staff get frustrated and angry, but they can't help it.
And they're working on it day in, day out, right?
And not everybody is sweet. Not every patient is sweet.
Yeah. That too.
They can. I didn't see a lot of that, but there were a few people who could get very angry.
Well, imagine you don't know where you are. You don't even know who you are half the time.
I mean, frightening.
Yeah, they're probably terrified. They're afraid. They don't know who these people are taking care of them. They don't know what's going to happen to them. I mean, yeah, it's such a terrible existence at that stage.
There was one day that a gentleman, he just liked to take his pants off a lot.
What?
He comes down the hall in his shirt, you know, and
like no pants, not even boxers?
No boxers.
Oh my, okay. That must have been a shock the first time you saw that one happen.
The staff.
I mean, the staff, I'm sure, is used to it.
They very discreetly say, okay, come on, so-and-so, we have to go back and put your pants on.
And what would he say? Like, nah, I don't feel like it, or?
No, I like it like this. But
what is it about the sight of a man with a shirt on and no pants that is like the most, let's say the most revolting, like unattractive sight?
It's just not right. It's just not right.
I mean, we could deal with him being, I think the visual of him being totally naked is actually much more acceptable than having the shirt on and no pants. It's just, no, not sexy at all. But yeah, there's just something about that sight that's like, no, not going to work. No. And especially if they've got socks on, hell no.
And of course they would. Of course. At least slippers.
Oh man. Oh man.
Yeah.
I used to have an ex-boyfriend who used to do that on purpose, just to like, you know, like he'd come out of the shower and then he'd purposely go put his t-shirt on, put his slippers on, and then he'd come down the hall and say, "Hey Karen, check me out. Look at how sexy I am." Like,
no.
Oh no. That's it for this evening.
Work.
You are now grounded. You need to go.
No, that's not good.
No, I don't know. There's just something about that visual that does not work.
Nope.
But yeah, life can be funny amidst
it can,
you know, the crap. And the thing is, if we don't find ways to laugh, like,
no, you have to.
Sometimes you just really go over the edge. Yeah. You know,
you have to. There was another lady who just counted. She counted all the time, from 1 to, she'd get up to close to 1,000. And then
oh my gosh! And then she start all over again.
Yeah.
That takes some serious mental patience as a caregiver, like a care worker. I mean, I applaud those people. It's a tough job.
It's
you
tough.
You're only human too.
And it's physical too. Yeah. It's very, very physical.
Some of them can't get up on there, and you have to bathe them. You have to help them out of bed. You have to turn them over.
It's very.
My friend Asher, who you know, she's a personal care worker, and yeah.
We were very, very fortunate that Mom and Dad had nice care. For my mother's funeral and for my dad's funeral, the staff that attended him on a regular basis were both at the visitation and the funeral.
Wow.
So they always referred to my dad as a real gentleman. Even when he was feeble and his mind was gone, they always referred to him as a Joseph, the real gentleman.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. What is the thing that you miss the most about your parents?
Oh.
Like if you think back to all of your memories, I mean, okay, that's going back a lot, but you know, just what's the main thing that you're like, you just
My dad used to sing to me. My dad was really corny.
Aww.
And even as a married woman with kids, he used to call me during the day and sing, I just called.
Oh.
My dad used to do that.
Oh, that's
and it was sweet. And my mom, just girl talk. I mean, you know, I got close to my mom after I had kids. Well, much closer.
Yeah.
And when I dream about them, I have more dreams about my mom than my dad, but my mom is always in her 50s.
You know, I've heard this weird thing about when someone kind of visits you, it's usually in a dream, but they always show themselves at their physical best.
I think that might be true.
It might be that your mom felt like she was felt her best, came into her own in her 50s.
In her 50s.
I had a dream once about my grandmother. When my uncle, who's a parapsychologist in the Azores, he was telling me about how sometimes when you have dreams, it's like their way of kind of visiting you. And And it's funny because 2 nights later when I was visiting him in Europe, I had a dream about her, but I was like, but she looked different. Like she had dark rimmed glasses, which I never grew up with her with dark rimmed glasses. And in my brain, I felt like she was in her late 40s. And so I said to my uncle, you'll never guess, I had a dream about vovó, which is grandmother in Portuguese. And I said, but she was wearing dark rimmed glasses. And I remember that from photos of her. He goes, oh yeah, she was in her 40s around that time. That's probably, she felt her best then. Like when she looked her best, she was more confident. Yeah. He goes, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. And so your mom was always in her 50s in your dream.
Always.
What interesting. So what was she like in her 50s?
Well, I think she was still working. She had a teenage daughter because she had a child late in life, my baby sister.
Oh, okay. Because there's 4 of you all together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't know. My dad was a bit older and he had retired early and they were very, very comfortable. He had a good job. She really enjoyed her grandchildren. She just
it's kind of the golden era of her life.
It was certainly, for her it was. They traveled a little bit. No, it was a nice time for them.
Aww.
Very, very nice.
Sweet.
This is like a little cuff.
Yeah, it is a cuff. So you were asking, do I need directions? Like, am I going on a pattern? And I have followed patterns, but my brain just starts to wander, so I do a lot of experimentations. So no, I am making a cuff for the lining of a glove. So yeah, I'm using front post stitches to create the little ridge effect, which is very similar to what I did.
And this is going to go in this mitten?
Yeah, so basically I'm making mittens, which there will be a tutorial for this coming up in the next few weeks. Because it's kind of sparse, and I'm going to use this more for when I scrape the ice off of my car, I'm making a lining. So yeah, so this one is out of this great, it's called Amore.
Really soft.
Soft yarn. It's actually polyester, 100% polyester. Super soft. So I'm going to make another mitten as a liner to go inside this one. So yeah, this is a cuff. So once you understand the technique, like, okay, so I knew I needed 26 stitches to go around. So I just did single crochets, and now I'm using doubles. And so then you do a regular, then you do a front post when you push the post of the stitch forward, and then a regular, a front and a regular, and that's what creates the ridge for the cuff. And then once I, which probably will be not long after this, then I'm just going to do regular stitches to keep it going straight, and you just work in the round, and then you leave a little hole here, and you just keep going.
Very cute.
Yeah, but that's why, because I knew this wasn't going to be a fancy pair, like, I didn't really do too much counting. I just kind of went by.
I'm the pattern person. I have to.
No, patterns are great. I mean, they give you structure. But it's funny, I teach crochet as well at the class on Saturdays, and a couple of the girls are knitters. And one thing that one of the girls hates about crochet is like, there's too much counting. She goes, with knitting, as you know, once you get your loops on your needle, you just keep going back and forth. You don't have to count, unless you're doing like an intricate pattern.
Yeah, I count after every
but row. She just does usually like knit and purl, or purl and, or like variations of that. But she says once you run out of the stitch, you know you have to go back onto the other needle. Whereas in crochet, you have to keep your count proper, because it's so easy to skip a stitch and then start shrinking, or sometimes it's so easy to increase a stitch. So if you're ever unsure, and in my tutorials I always say that just stop and go back and count, make sure you have the same number of stitches. So am I using a pattern? No, but I'm using kind of like an average type of pattern off the top of my head, that I know, like the general way to make a mitten. Like, let's say that, which I guess would be a pattern. So yeah, that's what I'm doing there. And you've got, are you doing single crochets now?
I think that's all I'm doing.
Okay, great. Yeah.
If I wanted to run up here.
Okay, so now what you've got here, see these bumps? That's the back of your work.
Okay.
So you always want to try to work in the front of your work. So these are the stitches. So you go into the V's. There is a little technique though, when I first start, that I go into the back bumps. So I would see this bump here. I would kind of pick that up. And
am I too tight?
just for this technique, you might be too tight, but it's totally a preference thing, right? So I would just do my single crochet into there, and what happens is this ridge then sits down like that, and it just gives you a nice finish at the edge already. Otherwise, but most people will do projects where they go right into the stitch in front, and then maybe they might do a border at the end. So it's totally what your preference is.
Okay.
This is the beautiful thing about this stuff. You can make it look however you want. So you've got a knitting project going where you're working a project. What about sewing? What do you have on the go with sewing?
I have nothing on the go with sewing right now. Just
Frances has made her own dresses, the whole 9 yards.
I need to get better with my serger.
Actually, how did you get? What did you start first? Was it sewing or knitting or crochet?
I probably made knit slippers. I've knit a pair of mittens when I was a young girl and slippers.
So how did you learn?
I had an aunt show me.
And then the sewing, when did that come into play?
That came about the same time. I used to make a lot of my school clothes, and that was a neighbor who taught me.
See, those are the memories when you can remember. I still remember Mrs. Mladen, grade 5, teaching me crochet. Even though I didn't grow up with her, but I had a grandmother that crocheted the thread crochet, you know, the doilies and stuff.
Oh, yes.
So when she would come to visit us in Canada, she would stay for like a month, 2 months at a time. So I did grow up with her crocheting, but I think in those days I was still a bit too young. So around 10, grade 5, Mrs. Mladen started a crochet club at lunchtime once a week. And
cool.
I was all over it. And yeah, so I still remember her to this day teaching me how to make a dress for my Cabbage Patch doll. So did you ever stay in touch with that neighbor?
She's...
she's gone now, yeah?
She's gone now.
But did you...
Oh, yes. She was a neighbor for... a very, very long time. She helped me make prom dresses and things like that. Bridesmaids dresses.
Wow.
But I was reading a novel about, a big feature of the novel was these poor girls in France who would become sisters because they needed to be taken care of. And they were badly taken care of. They would sit in dark rooms. I don't know why the lighting was so bad.
Is this based on a true story, or this
yes,
is...
the nuns who made Chantilly lace.
Okay, I know where this story is going. Were these girls that were kept in homes because they had gotten pregnant, or they were...
Yes.
This story is so common. You hear about this in Ireland.
Yeah.
Even here in Canada, we had those type of... well, in Ireland, they were called the laundries. And there's a fabulous movie called The Magdalene Sisters, because it was based on the Magdalene laundries, and it was all run by the nuns. It was
There's another one, too, with a British actress.
Philomena.
Yes.
That's all based on a true story of how these girls were...
taken advantage of.
And it's not only the girls that fell pregnant outside of wedlock, girls that were raped.
Yes.
They were seen and got pregnant. Yeah. Girls that were potentials for getting pregnant, because if you were too pretty, you got sent to this home. And some of these women grew old there and died, and it was a prison. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. Yeah. So you were reading
and this. It takes years before you're qualified to do the Chantilly lace. And it's really
and it's slave labor, by the way.
Laborious, very hard on your hands, and all of them go blind. They all go blind. The work is so fine.
So this is what's based on in this novel.
It was a big part of it. I honestly can't remember the rest of it.
Wow.
I was just
you were
interested in the lace part of it.
Yeah, that's the only thing with working. Even crocheting with really fine thread, I kind of get excited about it, but it's so... It's so time consuming, and it gets hard on my fingers, start to cramp. But I do admire people that have the talent and the patience to work with that.
So what's the difference between crocheting and tatting?
I've never heard of that.
It's a kind of lace they make.
I'm not sure. I've never heard of that.
My,
Must be an extra.
My mother-in-law used to talk about her mother tatting lace.
Oh.
It's pretty.
Must be very, very fine.
Yes. I think maybe they do doilies or.
Okay.
And I guess nobody does doilies anymore. So.
Well, I don't know. I don't see any, but it's definitely a dying art.
Yeah.
And again, it requires, you know, intense eyesight,
And concentration.
concentration, good hands. Like sometimes I find my fingers cramp up a little bit. So, what was the thing you made that you were the most proud of? Like you were like, man, I did it. This is good. Like whether it's sewing, knitting, whatever.
There's a few things for sewing. I used to make fabulous costumes for my kids at Halloween. Things that you wouldn't do anymore because they're so cheap to buy a good costume.
Yeah.
Rainbow Bright, Snow White, Dracula.
Oh my God, Rainbow Bright! I forgot all about Rainbow
the stuffed
Bright.
tubes, and it's so cute.
Oh my gosh,
But
you have to show me pictures.
I remember when we were living in Montreal, I had a 1-year-old and not much money. I remember taking a maternity dress apart and making her a smocked dress. And she was I had kind of high button shoes for it, and the dress was kind of old fashioned. My father always used to say, "That child looks like she just got off the boat." She kind of did.
That's so cute.
But that was a sweet little smock dress. I really liked that. It was the first time I'd smocked, and it came out really well.
Wow. Yeah, you'll have to show me the picture for sure.
Now, you feel good when you take something that you've already got
Absolutely.
and use it again, and it was so pretty.
I actually made a dance dress once that way. Like I didn't make it, but I went to Winners and I saw this, I still have the dress actually. It was not sequin, but you know that jersey material that will have like this sparkle running through it? Oh, it was like mini little rhinestones, but not really rhinestones. It was like kind of embedded in the fabric.
You could feel it.
Yeah, you could feel it, but it kind of went in little like stripes, like short stripes on an angle. But it was this huge, like I'm talking XXL t-shirt.
Okay.
And it was all that fabric, and I was just at Winners going through stuff like I usually do when I'm scavenging for sparkly things. And I saw this fabric, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. It was, I don't even remember, it was probably $10.
Because nobody's going to buy.
Yeah, it was like an extra large, long sleeve t-shirt. And I'm like, I am going to get a dressmaker to do something with this.
And what did you do?
So what I did is I got her, just cut the sleeves off. She turned the top into a halter. And then, of course, I patted it with the boobs and pushed it forward because that's what you did. And then she kind of just nipped it in a bit so it was a little bit form-fitting, shortened it so it was like right above the knee, and put 2 slits on each side, and then put 3 layers of tassels. So it was a Latin dress. And then she made the bodysuit built on the inside. And
What did she charge you for that? Can you remember?
Oh, we're going back a ways now. I don't recall. You know what? I bet you though it was under $100. Yeah.
And what
back
color?
then, I mean, we're talking probably 20 years ago.
What color?
It was black. It was black with these little shiny little, I don't know what I call them, like little, because it wasn't full lines. It was like broken. Yeah. But yeah, that was my proudest kind of find.
And
I'm
you
like,
feel so good about
I got it for $10 and
Do you crochet in bed?
No. And it's funny you say that because I always think, oh, that would be a nice thing to do, just cozy up. But because the headboard in my bed is it's one of those old-fashioned ones that I kind of refurbished, so it's not really the most comfortable. But I like to crochet curled up on the couch, and I put my feet up on there, and I have my little blanket over, and watching some videos on my iPad. That's usually how I crochet. Even though I have this fabulous wing chair that I could sit in. But yeah, I have my little crochet nook there in the corner.
Have you seen any good podcasts lately?
Joe Rogan has always got some killer guests on there. Just love him. Podcast I've really gotten into lately is it's called Your Mom's House. Yes. Have you heard of it? With Tom Segura and his wife Christina Pajitsky. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct, but They are such a funny couple. It's awesome. Like,
she's pregnant, right?
she just had their second baby, I think about 5 or 6 months ago. But I'm telling you, the amount of silliness and fun that those two have together, I want to be them when I grow up. Like, when I see, I don't know, I just love their relationship with each other. They just, neither one of them takes themselves too seriously, takes each other too seriously, and they just have a blast at being silly, you know? So yeah, I'm really loving it. But I have to tell you, since you introduced me to Funny 820 on the AM dial, that is all I listen to. Like, it is now programmed when I'm on my way to the studio or when I'm coming home from the studio. That's what I listen to. I mean, who doesn't need some good laughter?
I agree.
In their life. So yeah, I've
been listening to that for years.
I'm all about the funny. Apparently, Sebastian Maniscalco has a new, oh, the sun's coming out, yay! But he has a new special on Netflix right now. My girlfriend saw it. I think it's called Staying Hungry or something like that. She said it was pretty hilarious.
He's funny. He has a great voice. The accent is really good.
Yeah. He's got that Italian New York, like yeah.
He's funny.
So yeah, actually on Joe Rogan right now, I'm watching the one, not his latest one, but I think 2 episodes ago, where he had a guy on by the name of Killer Mike. And I think he's like a rapper, writer, actor. And this guy is just so freaking with it. Like, some of the stuff he says about, you know, trying to help youth and change the mentality of people and really work together with people who are different than you. Like, push yourself to find people that are different than you. So it keeps expanding your mind. I'm like, I could have just, I mean, I'm still halfway listening to it, but I could listen to
that might make you uncomfortable, but...
Yeah. And I mean, just so, just the way he speaks, he's so intelligent in how he brings his thoughts across. I mean, so cool. Like, Joe really hits it out of the park with the people he has on his show. And that's from comedians to a scientist to everything.
He really surprises me. I thought he was just a big jock.
Yeah, and he says that all the time. He goes, when people look at me, they just see a meathead. And
he talks like one.
But he's just, you know what I really like about him as a person and listening to his podcast, shout out to Joey Baby, love you, is that he really always brings it back to the fact that he's a human being who's just really curious and fascinated about life and other humans, and always trying to think how he can make himself better. And he, you know, he's the first one to say, I'm an idiot, I fuck things up.
He has kids,
and he has 3 girls.
Oh,
yeah. And he's just a guy who likes to think things through. And and he's hilarious when he has his comedian buddies on. Oh my gosh. There was one episode where they talked about, you know, the comedian Joey Diaz?
Yes.
Okay. Apparently they were on tour together, or they were doing a show, and they were taking a flight together. And they literally spent 30 minutes of this podcast talking about how Joey Diaz let out the most killer ass fart on the plane. That was, he said it devastated all of first class. But literally, they had this conversation describing it in detail about Joey's fart, and it was nothing but falling over laughter, and I just was killing myself laughing my ass off.
I do like fart humor, I must
say.
But
you know what? That's what you need sometimes.
Yes,
you just need a good belly laugh where your abs are hurting, you know you've had a good time. And this is why, like, the more I listen, I've been listening to him now for a couple years now, and the value of comedy in your life,
for sure.
And how important it is as an art form, how difficult it is to really craft and cultivate. And I have so much respect. Shout out to anybody who's doing it well, trying to do it, doing it badly. Like, I applaud all of it because it's so difficult. It's so difficult to do. But actually, this brings me to a point, because you used to work for the police, and which I'm sure that job alone was fascinating in and of itself.
It had its
But
moments.
but you were, what did you do for the police? You did.
I worked for intelligence for a while, and then I retired out of professional standards, which used to be called internal affairs, just to the department that makes sure that
Everything
police
is
officers
running.
are
But you said
doing their
at
job honestly.
one point you were transcribing some of the.
I was a transcriber. You hear some very interesting things.
I know, but some of the stuff, like, has there been anything? Because we're talking about comedians and all that kind of stuff, and we're talking about serious stuff, but how you can find the funny. Like, were there ever anything? I know you've heard a lot of terrible things, but was there ever anything that you would listen to something and go, "Oh my God, is this for real?" Like that would make you actually laugh because based on the ridiculousness. Anything that you can share, you're allowed to share.
No, usually by the time you get to you're given a transcript because they want to present it in court or something. So everything in there is pretty serious.
Oh, okay.
It's
fair enough. Yeah.
It's not.
But like any
phone calls would be more.
And did you ever transcribe any of those?
No.
Oh,
no.
okay. Because there's got to be some, like in
all
the crap you deal with in a job like that, there's got to be some seriously funny things that happen.
There's, God, let me see if I can think of anything funny.
Like I know with dancing, having students fart on a lesson is a funny thing to happen. But as a teacher, it's also the worst thing that can happen to you because you have to pretend like you're not acknowledging it.
Okay. This isn't police related, but dancing with my teacher, who I already mentioned is hunky dory.
Yeah, he's a hunk. We can attest to that.
We're doing a lift, and I just blasted one. And the music was really, really loud.
But okay, so how was the lift? Like
the lift was
it like were you doing an arabesque or was he just lifting you straight up this way or like?
It was a back walkover in the air.
Oh, so your back was kind of over and then your legs would go.
Your legs are in the split right where your teacher's face is, and okay. I thought I was gonna die.
Oh my God!
And I just kind of sat down on the floor, and he went, "What's wrong? What's wrong? Did you hurt yourself?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, what's wrong?" I said, "I farted." Okay. I mean, what are you going to say?
So he hadn't heard you.
He hadn't.
Oh, so you could have gotten away with it in a way.
I could have, but we were on videotape because.
Oh my God!
Joyce was filming.
Oh, Joycey.
And the funniest part of the whole video is my teacher laughing so hard he can hardly breathe. And I still have it on my iPad.
Oh man, but but those are the moments of that's how I always knew you were a cool chick because she's like, yeah, I farted. So what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
I mean, stuff happens. Yeah. What are you gonna do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
Have you ever had
so loud to me?
Oh man, that's pretty bad. Have you ever had one of those moments where you had back in the day when I used to wear pantyhose, did you ever have the typical you kind of tucked the back of your dress into your pantyhose and you didn't
out
realize
of the bathroom?
I have done it.
Yeah.
I have done it.
That's so embarrassing.
And I did it in high school, and I wore a uniform, but it was City's Day, and I was wearing this outfit. I don't even remember what the outfit was. I think I was in grade 9, so still kind of trying to find my coolness, right? And I don't know what it was, but I must have when I was pulling my pants or whatever, and I was tucking, I don't know, something into my pantyhose, and I guess the hem of my skirt was in there. And I'm walking, so the washroom wasn't far from the hall. I guess nobody was in the hall because everybody was in the cafeteria at that point. I go through the double doors of the cafeteria, and I must have taken 5 steps in, and I'll never forget. This girl was in grade 11. Didn't know me. We knew of each other in the hall. And I heard her say, "Oh, hold on." And she came up behind me and she untucked it.
Nice girl.
And she was my lifesaver. And I was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." Yeah. And she was a cool girl but she was also one of the cool girls.
Yeah.
And for her to come up and do that, I thought,
very nice.
She's a good egg, because when you're in high school and girls are so freaking catty and It would have been easy to just let me continue walking
Let
and
everybody
let
laugh.
everybody have their entertainment. But yeah, I'll never forget that. I think her name was Jennifer. Yeah, but she saved me, boy, oh boy.
Better than walking out with toilet paper hanging out the back.
Oh, have I ever done that? I think I have done that at a wedding. But I was like 12, 13,
Okay,
right? It was
okay.
still embarrassing, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think I've done all of those stupid embarrassing things.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nothing like being embarrassed.
Well, the thing is, it's also a way that lets you know that you're still human and that you shouldn't take
It's
yourself
true.
too seriously.
That's
I mean,
true.
you know, sometimes when people take themselves too seriously, it's just like, come on, dude. Like, let's get over it.
But farts are funny.
Oh, man.
They just are.
Oh, and do you know that Tom and Christina on the Your Mom's House podcast, they built this new studio, and she said, no, we need to install a fart mic. Shout out to Tommy and Tina. Love watching you guys. So literally, when he feels one coming
Oh,
on,
I love it.
he goes, pass me the mic, and he sits on it, and they have guys in the control room with the sound on, and it's
That's
brilliant. She is
Oh,
the happiest I've seen a wife. She goes, oh my God, I'm so happy. I'm so happy when I hear that, because it's like the silliest, funniest thing ever.
is.
And
Crap.
so that was one of the main things that they installed in the new studio was the
Love it.
fart mic.
That's
so
brilliant.
I'm telling you, if you do not listen to podcasts and you just want something uplifting, like I watch it on YouTube because I like seeing them, but like download the podcast app on your phone, listen to it in the car when you're on the way to work. It's some of the funnest stuff, and it's a great way to kind of let out some nervous energy and get in a little bit of a good mood before you.
I love that
I mean,
station. Someone
yeah.
I worked with brought a fart machine to work.
what?
And this machine had a rainbow of fart sounds.
A rainbow?
There would be the silent but deadly.
Oh my
God!
God!
The ripper.
Wasn't this
the
when you?
toot.
Wasn't this when you also worked for the police?
Yes.
Um,
He had an office behind me, and every time I sat down,
my
he'd
God.
he'd
But
pick one.
It sounds like they were a bunch of pranksters as
Yeah,
well.
They were.
Yeah.
God.
I know some of the stuff you've told me that you've done for a prank. Oh, that's
Good
just
stuff.
too good. I think that's why you're always able to kind of just. You always strike me like you're able to kind of let a lot of stuff just
Go.
slough up. Yeah, and I so admire that.
You know, I think when you get older,
So-
you're going to go one of two ways. You're either going to be
So have you
more uptight.
kind of grown that way,
Yeah.
or have you always a little bit been that way, or you've just learned to kind of realize
No,
that life?
I haven't always been that way. I've always been, as a youngster, I was nervous and uptight and
Okay.
and tried to be very proper. Never swore. You know, I really tried. And
So-
then after a while,
And what was your actual turning point where you finally said, "Guess what? You know, like life is just life. Got to loosen up a bit."
yeah, I would say when I turned 50, same as my mom. maybe.
Really?
Not that my mom was better mannered than I am for sure,
Mm.
but
And you've
I
gone
would
through a
say
lot of
50.
stuff. Like you've got 4 kids.
Yep.
I know, especially raising kids, you've had a lot of ups and downs. You're still married to your husband,
Robert.
Rob, of
45 years this year.
holy cow, 45 years. So, yeah, my parents are 46 years.
Oh my goodness.
So what
That's
is
a long time.
what is the secret to staying together? I mean, you guys have a good, solid relationship, but what do you think it is to stay some 45 years and ups and downs with drama with kids and all that stuff?
Oh,
a lot of
kids and
times that's
jobs
enough
and
to
money
and money and
everything. It's just
what has been the factor I think that holds the glue that holds you guys together?
well, your kids keep you. I think your kids keep you together. I mean, you kind of lose yourself for a few years.
Yeah.
In your kids.
Sure.
And we laugh a lot.
Mm.
I think that's probably a
Yeah, Bob-
really, really big part of it.
I've only met him a couple of times,
Yeah.
but based on some of the stuff you tell me, it sounds like he has
He's
a really
funny.
good sense of humor.
I think that's a really big part of our relationship.
Yeah.
Still our kids and grandkids, but
Yeah.
we love to laugh.
And obviously you love to laugh together.
And
Like
we
you-
argue a lot.
Yeah, I mean, what couple doesn't,
the
right?
kids look at us a lot of times and roll their eyes. I mean, we're building this house, and
Right.
they say we need to get
A mediator.
what do you call those cameras you put on your, those, you can get them and put them on your helmets.
Like a
Something.
spy cam?
No, they're not spies. They're
But
just
the-
videos you can wear. And,
Like a mounted,
yeah.
yeah. I forget what the actual
something cam it's called. Whatever. Kids think that we should. One of us should.
A
have
body
one.
cam.
Yeah, something
Something
like
like
that.
that. Yeah.
Because they would like to hear the conversation as we're building this house.
Oh,
Because I take directions badly.
And how well does Bob give directions?
Well, he thinks he gives them perfectly.
Of course
but,
he does.
It will be interesting. And but I hate to admit it, he's usually right, which really pisses me off.
Of course it
It's hard
does.
to live with a guy who's
always
always
right.
right.
Yeah. would
So
be
building, I've learned to shut my mouth when I need to take directions.
But that takes a big person to do that, you know?
But since I know that he knows what he's doing,
Yeah.
then I really don't take direction well. Not that I resent it, it's just that I usually don't take them well. I don't follow directions well.
What do you think it is about that?
I don't know.
Is it that you
It could be
really
my-
need to figure it out, like
Yeah,
for yourself, like you're more physical, you need to figure it out as opposed to hearing it from an outside source?
No, I think it's a low IQ actually.
What?
I
hardly think that's the case.
It's gotta be because I can't figure out why I do it either.
The stuff this girl is capable of doing,
Yeah,
I hardly think that's the case. Oh, look at that, a little beanie for a preemie baby.
Or a nipple warmer.
Well, did I ever show you the picture of what my brother made? It was originally supposed to be a dishcloth, a square.
Okay. I didn't know he
but
actually made something.
He did, and I give him absolute 1,000 points credit for doing homework. Over Christmas, he showed it to me. I posted it on our Instagram, and we need a tissue.
Yeah.
And basically, it ended up being a cone shape. And I'm like, "That's great, bro. What's it supposed to be?" And so he goes, "Well, you can make it like a little beanie for because it just extended long ways, right?"
Really?
So he goes, "Yeah, it could be a beanie for a premature baby." And then Sarah saw the picture. She goes, "That looks like a condom warmer." A condom, not a condom, a condom warmer. I'm like,
oh my gosh.
oh my god, that's the yeah. I've seen some pretty funny things, but
I guess
yeah.
it's just easy to do that kind
Well,
of
you
stuff
know what
by
happens?
accident.
Well, why it rounds out is because we lose a stitch.
Oh, okay.
So what happens is as you lose a stitch, it starts to cinch in, and before you know it, it just becomes circular.
I think I've lost a
So,
lot.
yeah, all that fart talk, you know. We have some very in-depth conversations here on the
Yeah.
stitch sessions.
Yeah, we're very deep.
But this is what I love about doing these sessions, because I find that things like crafting, whether it's crocheting or knitting or sewing, and it's just something to kind of mindlessly do.
Yes.
It's a great way to start some chatting and conversing, and
It is.
and a lot of times what I find is, you know, people are always looking for that person that's so different. I want to interview them, and when I was thinking about doing this show, I was like, you know what? I want to just talk to like my everyday people, like
Regular schmoes.
regular schmoes that, you know, go through regular things and the things I love about them and what I find fascinating about them, because we never think that we're interesting.
That's true.
You know, we're always looking at people like on YouTube or Netflix or Instagram. Oh, there's so much. Everybody else is always much more exciting than we are. But I think we all have interesting and fascinating lives if we really just take the time to have the conversation, find out more about another person. And,
I don't know how many times I've said to people, like you even, you should write this down. You should put this in
so many
a
people
journal,
have said
a
that
diary.
too.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's true.
some of the stories you've told me, I'm like, you really got to write a book. But I know, but it's also then getting to the point where you do sit down and
that's something different.
either do videos like I'm doing here. Like I thought about doing this forever and a day, and then I thought, okay, well, I'm going to combine crochet and talking, the two things I love doing, talking and crocheting, or sitting down and actually writing the book or writing the idea.
Yes.
It's the sitting down part that actually It's the hardest thing to do. It's like going to the gym. Once you're actually there, it's like, oh, this is not bad. Like, what was the big deal?
It's getting there.
It's the getting in the car. It's the finding the bargain spot. I know, first world problems, right? But that, I mean, that's the thing. That is the thing. Well, my cuff is coming along. And my, actually I made it a bit snug, but see, so that's the cuff. And now I have to start.
It's very pretty.
Yeah, I have to start expanding it for the glove.
Have you ever made fingerless gloves?
Oh, yeah. I have a tutorial on that as well.
That would be a good one.
So, yeah, not bad for
when you're working in a cold room and you have to, you know, use your keyboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we had some technical difficulties, so it looks like we're going to have to wrap things up here after all. So I want to say a big thank you to my guest, Miss Frances, for coming and hanging out with me today.
You're very welcome.
I had a blast. I look forward to having us do this again sometime soon. Maybe we'll do it outside next time once the weather warms up a little bit. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you guys so much for sitting and hanging out with us, and hopefully you've made some progress on your work in progress right now. And make sure to subscribe if you like hanging out with us in our crochet and conversation videos, as well as checking out some of our tutorials. If you like them, find them helpful, please feel free to share them with your friends. And in the meantime, we will see you in the next stitch session tutorial, which in fact next week will be February's Gift of Crochet. So stay tuned for that. Thanks everyone, have a great day, and see you later. Bye.